Today we're making a butternut squash gratin that's kind of a version of a traditional potato gratin, except it's using butternut squash and then some of those kind of interesting Indian spices that I grew up with. Each layer has a little bit of seasoning, and then the squash and sage and a tiny bit of this mixture of cream and spices. All these spices are roasted and then they're ground in a spice grinder, and then we add that spice mixture to a little bit of cream, warm it all together, and then cool it down. So we start building this like so. A teaspoon of this cream. This is just aged Parmesan cheese. Sage on its own is very, very strong. So this is actually crisped up in a little bit of olive oil. You really want to take this thing, the squash, and really press it down. It's really important that you get some of the air out. And then another layer of the seasoning. You just want to make sure you get a little bit everywhere. So it was originally my cousin who was around Thanksgiving who was asking what we could do with butternut squash because she loved it so much. And that's how originally we started making this, and now whenever I see her, it's become a required component of our holiday meals. If you cut it too thick, it doesn't bake evenly, so it's really important. Again, a lot of this is for texture. You really want to have a texture that's super dense and rich. The only way that's achieved is multiple layers. One more touch of this spice mixture, and then a little sage. This is a little bit of hazelnut oil. Hazelnuts and squash are great together. This is gonna go in the oven for about an hour at 300 degrees. This gratin just came out of the oven. You can see it decreased in volume by about half. So it's compressed. All that flavor that's evaporated is now inside. You don't want to cut it too thin. It's important. So this thing's so much about texture. And just like lasagna, the end pieces are always the best. You can see what happens here though is like you have so many layers. They're very compressed. The squash is very buttery. You get those little bites of sage. We have a little nutmeg that I think helps a little more of that crispy sage. It's a little bit lighter than a traditional potato gratin. Squash has a very different characteristic than potatoes. It has a lot more kind of fiber to it, so it has a little more structure. This is my daughter Ella, so this is, we add a little cardamom in there. That's her name is actually Ella. It stands for cardamom, is what it actually means. So she's always really excited when we make this thing, so it's kind of always for her. This is one of her favorite things I make, actually.